Welcome back to another episode of the Block Runner Podcast. I'm your host, William, always here with your co-host, Iron.
What's going on, dude?
On the sticks, we got TJ.
Hello.
And joining us today, we got Chris and Stan from Natfrogs. Welcome, guys.
What's up, guys? Good to be here.
Yeah, good to meet you guys. It's good to put some like human faces on some of these.
Yeah, some
these
of these
UNATs, right?
Yeah.
I wish I had the right shirt on. You know the one with the collection of early day UNATs and under the Dragon Ball Z like buff physique.
Yeah.
But I'm wearing my Kool-Aid shirt instead. But still, you guys can find that. But nonetheless, yeah, there's definitely an ecosystem and a community that has emerged. That's shockingly right. From like this thing that we started about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
6 to 7 months ago. And yeah, it's quite the proliferation of like artistry and just experimentation and all kinds of stuff we didn't really foresee, right? And
yeah,
we did and didn't at the same time. So yeah, we wanted to introduce you guys to I guess the audience who maybe weren't around during the early days of UNAT creation and such, because it was quite chaotic, as you guys kind of relay.
That's right.
But if you can, before we get into that topic of discussion, like give us your background as far as creators. How did you get involved specifically in the Bitcoin ordinal scene, and then how did DMT like ping your attention?
Maybe you go first.
All right. Yeah, I'll kick it off. Yeah. So Chris, I've been in Bitcoin since 2017. And, was just kind of an early hodler for a while, working my fiat startup job for a couple of years there. And at a certain point, I got to the situation where all I could think about was Bitcoin, and it was becoming really difficult to be productive in my fiat job. So I realized that if I wanted to be decent at my profession, I had to find a career in this space. And around the same time COVID hit, I was in New York working for a startup. We all got let go, the whole team. And I had this idea in the back of my mind for what later became Scarce City. Recruited one of the developers from the team, and we started grinding on that. Scarce City is a marketplace and auction house for Bitcoin art and collectibles. We first focused on like physical artwork, and we still do to this day. Mostly because there just wasn't much of a market back in 2020 for digital artworks on Bitcoin. However, we were like early adopters of adopters is a strong word, but early supporters, relatively early supporters of the counterparty protocol and projects there, the rare pepes, the fake rares. At a time, early in like the NFT bull market when it wasn't really on anyone's radar. And that kind of leads further into the story of like where my strong affiliation with Digital Frogs came, which actually is, super relevant to this discussion. But yeah, mostly my focus has been on Scarce City since then. We have some side projects, Orb City, which focuses more on ordinals. Pepe Flyers, another frog-related project that maybe we can talk about at the end. That is at the intersection of physical and digital goods related to Pepe the meme.
Yeah,
and ordinals introduction. Scarce City was one of the first, if not like we were definitely like the first real auction house to start auctioning off the early ordinals. Right after release. Maybe it was it was late February of last year. So that was wild, man. There was a few months there where it was just all about like the early number inscriptions, and we were consistently doing auctions for that. And for guys who the whole time, the whole premise for creating Scarce City was that we saw what was happening in the Ethereum ecosystem around NFTs, and I just have a strong belief in Bitcoin, and I'm certainly a maximalist, but a maximalist in the perspective that I also believe in the value of digital goods, and so much so that I believe that they should be secured by the strongest network, which in my mind is undoubtedly Bitcoin. Yeah. So we were working our way in that direction, and when ordinals came along, it caught me totally off guard.
Yeah.
I had heard about it. I actually had an early conversation with Casey, And it sounded, when he was talking about the idea, it sounded totally crazy. And I was like, okay, good luck, man. We're here for you if it ever takes off. So it was a very welcome surprise. Although I will say I was skeptical about the long-term viability of ordinals in the beginning. Especially like the BRC-20 thing, like I didn't participate in, somewhat regrettably, but I never got into the tokens in general. I was more into the digital art side of things. And it wasn't until I really wrapped my head around bitmap that I realized, okay, there's more to this. And funny story, Scarcity actually auctioned off bitmap 1.
Yeah.
When it was Satoshi, when it was, he first released it, and it went for like less than
$300,
2 million sats.
Yeah, $353.
Yeah, even funnier story. We were there bidding on that.
We were bidding.
After the fact, I looked at it and I saw Imen's name on there. I was like, oh wow,
Yeah.
Imen was in that. But you didn't win.
No. Well, actually, we did win, but we couldn't figure out like how to send, I guess, external funds.
Yeah.
Or we weren't properly prepared, so like the timer counted down on us.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And we got defaulted.
Yeah, I think the timer was like 2 minutes. I feel
2
like
to
it
10,
should have been.
something.
No, it was way shorter than that.
I do remember like the panic.
We were scrambling. We're like, dude, we can't open Coinbase. It's like, how do we send this quickly? And
we have that footage somewhere.
Yeah, we recorded it. It's somewhere.
It's
Yeah.
I don't know. It's deep in the archives.
Yeah.
We never knew what to do with it, but yeah, I remember the quietness in this room after we fumbled that hard. Because I mean, back then, nobody knew if 1.bitmap would be worth anything, right?
yeah, it was
for some reason-
it was pre-blockout.
Like pre 1,000 mints, I think.
No.
No? Okay, whatever. The point is, but to us, it felt like it meant something, right? Kind of like what you're saying. Something about bitmap, right? It stood out to us, obviously, because we have like native Metaverse developers and stuff. So we felt like owning the first one would have meant something, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is an interesting story. So go ahead, continue on.
Yeah, well, even at that time, I totally faded bitmap because I didn't get it. We actually have Batoshi in our Telegram chat, and I was like, "Tell us about it." And he gave his pitch, and it just went over my head. I didn't make the connection, and it wasn't until later that it all started to make sense. Like, the concept, like a protocol for actually, decentralizing a metaverse land. It's like, okay, like I had experimented with metaverse initiatives on Ethereum. Because, the concept, it was like, okay, of course, this is going to exist in some form. And so it was interesting to play around with, but like, for various reasons that are kind of hard to really pinpoint, it just hasn't taken off there. So once I realized that, okay, this was a way to do it truly in a fair way with no real ownership, and then also incentivize potentially a whole bunch of developers to build their own versions of the metaverse, like that was the connection where I was like, okay, there's something interesting here. And that's when, like, really I started just consuming all of your guys' content and, went deep on bitmap. But then when you started talking about DMT, started wrapping my head around that. And again, it was like, okay, this is new. This is, technically ordinals was new in the way that we're putting the media on chain. That was, certainly novel. And I think part of what made ordinals successful in the beginning. But, I guess I just didn't see that as like super interesting to sustain the ecosystem on its own. So when I started understanding what you guys were talking about with bitmap, DMT, and then UNATs with NatCats, I was like, okay, there's actually substance here. There's actually like an ecosystem that's new, doing novel things and has potential to grow. And I think most importantly, like for me, it was like, this is the people who were involved in this space, while it's very new, they're super smart and super passionate. And, they're like, they're building on the frontier in all directions. So it's like this has room to grow. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's certainly going to grow. So anyway, that was really the point where the switch flipped for me on ordinals in general. And I've just been like, with any of my free headspace has been devoted to DMT UNATs in general. So yeah, I think that's my background in a nutshell on how I got to this point.
What about you, Stan?
Oh, my story is going to be very, very long. So, first of all, thank you guys really for invite. It means a lot because I'm a fan of yours too. I was watching your videos from the very beginning. So it's really cool to meet you guys. And my beginning with Bitcoin was actually at the very, very beginning when the Bitcoin was popularized in the internet for the first time in the poker communities. Because, except for making art, I used to love play poker, early 2000s, 2010s. It was the time where I played the most. And everybody was talking about the Bitcoin. So obviously I wanted to try it. I think I was even mining it and I didn't even know what I was doing. So all the Bitcoin is gone for sure. So then later, I was coming back and then Ethereum, the same, like you guys, I bought hundreds of those NFTs and I also thought about Metaverse as something that can connect us, on the space in crypto, which is decentralized, this underground frontier that is coming out, to the sun. I really like that feeling. And I think that Bitcoin is the second chance. Everybody had their own blockchains, ideas, but now we know Bitcoin is the only one real, decentralized, that nobody can affect in any way. And for me, that's super passionate, as an artist, even to be in this environment,
Mm-hmm.
Hold on a second. And, I have I don't know, for me, 6 years in computer graphics. I remember, very first pixel art on DOS, there was no, Windows even. And I was doing this pixel art in I think it was Animator, Autodesk Animator software, super low res. And now I'm thinking about it. So many people created so much art at the time, and it's so hard to find it, Mm-hmm. And now I'm thinking, man, if that would be inscribed on Bitcoin, it would be so easy to dig it up, So that's something that Bitcoin shows. It's immortal, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the DMT as a system, this digital matter theory, where it's non-arbitrary, where we are not going to be at some point, let's say, not creating new supply or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be created by Bitcoin pattern created from the transactions. It's super nerdy things, but it's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
And if somebody knows what this is about, understand how serious this is, I don't know, just super exciting. That's why when I saw those multiple projects minting, you guys, I tried Mint, I was missing out. I was buying, those under the counter, all that stuff. And many projects, they are not moving on, right? And I saw many Discord chats with people talking about the art, this project, that project. Then I thought, people that are talking about these Natfrogs, I bought 8 of them or something. So I thought, maybe I will do the art for this, just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it, and this is how we started. We started to have some fun with people in Discords, and everybody was contributing actually to the art with ideas, and I was sketching them live for them, and this is how we connected all in Natfrogs.
That's really awesome. So did you have a lot of experience writing scripts and all that?
No, not so much. So overall, as an artist in computer graphics, like I worked with really advanced, programs, softwares, pipelines, like really advanced in the world. But still, I'm not a scripter. I'm like heavy super user. I can understand how to work with programmers and coders, what they are going through, what they need. But yeah, I'm not the coder myself. That's why I like to hang out with guys like you. So you can kind of like show me how to do it, like help, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big.
That's it about my scripting skills.
Yeah, that's one of the big things, I guess, that is that we're, I guess, realizing is how many smart people that are being attracted to the ecosystem, developers especially, because
I
mean, it's always been our belief way back in the day since we began, developing in the metaverse space. That is really like fundamental and key to, I think, unlocking as much value as possible, is attracting, developers, people that can contribute code to kind of like, enable new things, right? So it is definitely, I think, like a new thing is like kind of like forcing artists a little bit to collaborate with developers in a sense.
Yeah.
Which to us, it's like we have experience in kind of like manifesting that, because we originally brought this new concept to the metaverse called a meta, which is a metaverse enabled tokenized application. So in order to do that, you need an operating system, first of all, so that you can actually code like the frameworks and the scripts that turn 3D content into something engaging, like similar to an app on your phone, but in the 3D environment, right? So that's something severely lacking in the metaverse space that we identified pretty early, right?
Yeah.
Any kind of metaverse we'd walk into, there would be nothing but static content around, just 3D sculptures and stuff like that. And it was not very engaging. I didn't have a motivation to stay logged in, right? I immediately wanted to log out, go back into my 2D interface where there was a ton of apps, right? So it was like, damn, it sounds like there's a lot of frameworks missing, a lot of technology and infrastructure missing to where we can have this natural collaboration happening between developers and creators and artists and stuff, right? So that was like the premise of MetaZone, our whole involvement in the metaverse space. But now here we are with Bitcoin. It introduces like a whole new slew of complications, right? Because we need to achieve the same things, but we have to deal with the limitations of Bitcoin itself, right?
It's kind of like what you guys were saying is Bitcoin has attracted a lot of smart people.
Yeah.
And when it comes to art, it's at surface value, it doesn't seem like it's really complicated, but when you look at it, it's like it's a script, it's code, it's JavaScript, it's HTML, it's all this like complexity behind it, and there's an art to it by itself, right? Not just like the artistic aspect of it, but the actual engineering aspect of it as well. And so I think that's been the most interesting when it comes to like the participants within the Bitcoin ecosystem, because we've been part of like the Ethereum space and all that, and it's just it wasn't the same. It doesn't have the same sort of spirit for some reason.
Like today?
Yeah, today.
Yeah. I think that definitely the innovation space has kind of gone from Ethereum to this thing that we're in right now. It feels like, I don't know, maybe we're biased, maybe we're living in like an echo chamber potentially. But yeah, so we agree with you, and I'm glad you guys, agree with us that DMT is interesting, right? And so you guys have a background as long as we do. Like, you guys have seen it all, right? And you guys understand how difficult it is to do anything new, especially now. Like, so much has been done in crypto and Web3, and even though Ordinals is like revolutionary, right? It's just it attracted all of us. We all just got sucked in like a magnet, because we instantly knew this is going to be something big. But at the end of it, it's
what I like the most about it. It's like, like I mentioned, I work with like really massive pipelines with, guys. I worked in Industrial Light and Magic. I'm working in Distillery, where we are building our own new pipelines. So I worked with very old pipeline, new pipelines, real-time engines, with all that stuff. And what is exciting about the Bitcoin, that it's like a clean slate. It's a completely clean slate, and everybody is trying to build something, right?
Yeah.
But even it's like building like an airplane during the flight, of course. But
that's right.
We have like thousands of pilots
Yeah.
but they are not communicating to each other, you know. So it's like even more exciting. Like instead of like big companies like Disney or something, you still have some monolithic vision, right? Where everybody's like fired and structured and organized, evolving, but it's still in like centralized nerve. And in Bitcoin, it's all decentralized. We are going to have people finance from, I don't know, Indonesia and from, I don't know, Poland, any country in the world. And somebody can be so innovative. And for example, that's why when I heard about ordinals first, then about DMT and runes, then I thought, oh my God, this is like a new wave of this new era of scientists in Bitcoin, that they actually see and know how to create the pipeline on Bitcoin. And it can be pipeline for anything, right? And yeah, it's just cool to be in it, you know, and maybe some of my experience will help in this as well. But, you know, it's so organic, so difficult. That's why it's not, you know, like I notice like many creators, they feel almost like bad that they cannot deliver more or faster or something. It's just like, it's too big horse, you know. It's like, it's such a massive problem. Like if people will understand how hard it is to create anything huge and meaningful, you know, so that's why it's gonna take us a long time. And if you're gonna all stick around, and there'll be more smart people coming into the space, I think we are gonna really build something, you know. But everybody has to be, you know, patient, I think, more. And yeah, I think it will come eventually, you know.
Yeah. So, Chris, do you want to run us through what happened with Natfrogs early on? I don't think it was as clean as like a lot of these other projects. So you want to kind of give us the background story of Natfrogs and sort of how it got to the point where it's at?
Yeah, so you know, it goes back to the Nat Cats mint out. I think it was just after that. I don't know if there was a dead time in between, but you know, at least shortly after, where you know some follow-up projects started to appear. I think first with like real intentions to create projects, and some were previewing art, and they were inscribing a deploy inscription for, you know, a free and open mint, just how Natcats was minted. And I think just like kind of quickly after those first couple projects started talking about that, and those started minting, people realized that, you know, all they had to do was inscribe a deployment inscription with a ticker, and then all of a sudden it's a free and open mint, and it doesn't matter if there's any art behind it or not. Like no one really knows if there's a plan here. And you know, a lot of people took the position that it's worth a try, it's worth minting this just in case there is a plan.
Correct.
So there was like a week at least, I don't know, it felt like a week. It's all blurry now because it was so crazy. It felt like a week of just like crazy minting, you know, deployment inscriptions being thrown out there, dashboards being tweeted out, and people just like blindly minting. Fees were low, so you know, it was relatively easy to start minting. And again, it was just like maybe there's something that will come out of this. So, you know, basically the UNAT zoo was created. Like every animal you can imagine, there was a UNAT ticker for, a DMT ticker for, and you know. We didn't really know. Like, you didn't know what was going to happen here. The Nat Frogs one was especially interesting because the initial deployment was done wrong. There was some kind of syntax error in the initial inscription. So, you know, like an incorrect deployment was like fully minted out. So, you know, several probably Bitcoin wasted in fees and that. But during that time, what we kind of found out later was someone recognized there was an error in that deployment inscription, and they inscribed the corrected deployment inscription. And then once people realized that, they started minting that one. So it was like extra chaotic among the already very chaotic time. And the next step there after these mint outs was people congregated in the Mscribe Discord. There was like channels for each of the newly minted out tickers. And I minted a few of different projects. Most of them felt like they had a leader, so it was kind of like waiting for a leader to step up and hopefully release some art. Most of those actually kind of just disappeared.
Correct.
And I never heard anything about them again. But the Natfrogs, like I had an early clue that there wasn't a leader because of that incorrect inscription and then it being inscribed correctly. And again, coming from my background of like rare pepes, fake rares, counterparty, like I like the frogs, and I didn't want to see the frogs go to waste. I didn't want to see them left for dead. So I started asking around in the channel, first of all, like, does anyone know who inscribed this thing? And it became pretty clear that no one did. No one was stepping up. So, just chased all the leads that I could and made as much noise as I could trying to find the inscriber because, to create anything out of this project, as you guys know, you need to have custody of the deployment inscription. Without that, there's nothing you can do. Eventually, one of my leads hit, and I got into DMs with the person who actually inscribed the deployment. And they told me that, my suspicion was correct, that they just saw people were minting the incorrect deployment, so they inscribed it correctly. They had no intention of creating anything. And, they didn't really wish to be part of the project. I have no idea who they are. It's just an anonymous Discord handle as far as I'm concerned. I haven't heard of anything from them like before or after.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were happy to send me the deployment inscription. So as soon as I got a hold of that, I started, talking about it in the Mscribe NatFrogs channel. And, Stan entered the chat relatively early on and just like started freestyling some of his early NatFrogs drawings. And that's like really that's what really like got the community excited because like the art was just so cool.
Yeah.
And especially, fitting within the constraints of the DMT UNAT framework of being, easily convertible to SVG code, right? I hadn't been done before, at least, from what I had seen of people making like just like objectively cool art that happens to also be, DMT art. So like once people started seeing that, like that got the community going. We created a standalone Discord server. And, of course you have the early mentors who are incentivized to join that and get excited, but a lot of people stepped up, to just be a part of the project for, no real incentive. Many of them didn't even mint or like maybe minted a couple or, you never know. But as far to the best of my knowledge, they weren't like big whales or anything.
Yeah.
They just liked the project. They liked the art that Stan had created and they wanted to be a part of it. So, like it was 3 months of grinding through iterations of art to code, creating SVGs, iteration after iteration, moderating the community, getting the socials going. And it was all just like totally like organic, decentralized community effort that made that happen among really what ended up being like about, I'd say 5 or 6 just random people who stepped up to lead this project. And again, I think
they did an amazing job. Yeah,
they did an amazing job. Of course, it was messy at times, as you expect for any kind of leaderless initiative. But I think the art speaks for itself. Like how it actually came through as a collection.
Yeah.
I think it holds up beautifully well, and I think all the credit really goes to Stan because that was the real like shelling point that got people excited to be a part of it.
Thank you guys. But I'm telling you, some of the community members, they're like really inspired me as well. I was just like, hey guys, so what is the idea? oh, maybe dead eyes. And I'm like, oh man, this is a great idea, you know. So many of those traits that they are in Natfrogs, yeah, they are ideas from the community. So yeah, hats off to a couple members there. Yeah, it was really fun. And honestly, it's like I'm seeing like a couple other people getting like into animating of those frogs. It's like so cool to see others being inspired and like feeling the flow of this art. This is very simple, clunky, a little bit South Parky, you could say, but more goofy. And I don't know, people, they are picking up this vibe, and I don't know, it's like pretty cool. You just need to make some t-shirts, you know, murals, and create some culture around it. Yeah, and
right.
Have some fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah, Iron Man's a big frog guy.
Huge.
I don't know why. I don't know how that came to be though.
I think it started with South Park. Like one of my early gamer tags was Clyde Frog.
Okay.
Ever since then, I've been all about the frog culture. You know, every time, you know, the pepes before they were cool.
That's right.
You know, I even had some Bitcoin frogs, just I thought like what cooler thing to exist on Bitcoin than frogs. And then of course NatFrogs. I think I minted 9 or 10 of them. I wanted that white hoodie frog like super bad. I still do, and I will get one without a doubt. But yeah, you guys are proving what it is that we were hoping would happen, right? Like you can actually legitimately build, you know, something aligned with Web3 culture within the DMT ecosystem in itself, right? So that's been our objective is to enable that to manifest naturally, right? Like we're not contributing any ideas or helping you guys in any way. We're not no expert marketers here at any stretch, right? Of course, we'd love to help anybody who's trying to create anything any way we can. It's like, man, you guys should do this or that, but definitely don't listen to us when it comes to like determining what's cool and how to build culture and vibe and all that stuff. But you guys figure that out on your own, you and your community, right? And like you said, it's one of the more the best demonstrations of some sort of substance emerging organically native to this DMT like narrative and all this stuff. So
yeah.
To us, that's a huge killer proof of concept. Like, you know, you can build ecosystem viability under this framework like you can with any other non-fungible framework that exists in Web3, right? Mm-hmm. But with this, you get that added notch of an interesting vector, right? That the rest of them do not share, right? The non-arbitrariness of this all. Like, yeah, you guys are contributing as much as you can as far as cultural value. But at the end of the day, you guys are just contributors, right? Like Bitcoin is going to decide at the end of the day, you know, where the direction goes ultimately, at least from a supply perspective, right? Which is, that is the new thing that the non-fungible ecosystem has never really had to consider, right? So
yeah, I feel like that's one of the more interesting developments that has occurred because you guys were, I guess someone inscribed a valid version of the deploy inscription, and then you guys had interest enough to like, actually acquire it, through whatever means, right? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, the community could have come up with any art, and then the one who owns the deploy inscription could have just pointed to it, right? As long as it was on chain. Mm-hmm. And so, I just feel like this marrying of community and like this ability for the community to contribute to the art is like a good example of NatFrogs. Yeah. And so kind of happy to hear how it sort of started and it transpired into something like a community growth project and, just like a single minter and
it had all the same ingredients as Natcats, right? I remember once the art was unveiled, the Discord just exploded in like activity and everyone's like, everyone's vibing and going crazy over the art itself, myself included. I was like, damn, these are so cool. Yeah. I really want one of the tongue sticking out with the DMT tab on it, all that shit. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, and that's true. And the best part is that we don't have to be like super serious about it, right?
Exactly.
So I'm thinking about Natfrogs like a playground. So I'm gonna build other things. I met a couple other creators in Bitcoin space, and especially I'm looking forward to dive in more into the 3D, especially because of the nature of my work. But then to treat the Natfrogs like a playground. So I'm learning some ideas somewhere else, but in Natfrogs, without any stress, I can test them out with some animation or something. But it's not like, it's going to be judged in terms of quality. Like when you work in VFX or game cinematics, like everything has to be perfectly polished always. And it's like billions of dollars in production if you want to create like a full universe like that. So it's, here we can just have some fun and test the technology as well. And it's like super complex what you can build. Like once I found out about recursive and that actually can create the hierarchy of the inscriptions, yeah, my head is like exploding from ideas, to be honest, you know. It's just time and people to connect, and you know, and it's good that you can keep working on it. It can be like level of detail. You can describe another thing that you can connect to that, and just like super cool.
Yeah.
So what has the community decided on, like, what happens when the pattern reoccurs again? Have you guys like discussed that as a community? It's like, you know, it's I guess it's just an open mint and people can mint, but what has been the sort of response from the community about the idea that this collection non-arbitrarily expands based off of patterns on Bitcoin?
I think what's most important is everybody knows the rules, right? Like whether it's you know, whether they want the collection to expand or not, like it's up front that the collection does have the potential to expand, and everybody knows that in the beginning. It's full transparency and no one controls that. So I think that's what's like most important there. I assume it would just be, you know, a fair and open mint for the new Natfrogs. It would be very cool if there was some kind of way to transition to more of like a privileged authority type of system. But in any case, like that's what we all signed up for. You know, we all knew from the beginning that this pattern has the potential to reoccur. And if it does, the collection will expand non-arbitrarily.
Yeah, I feel like that's the best part.
There are traits that we pre-planned, but they are not available now.
Yeah,
but maybe they will be available in the future.
Yeah, I feel like that's the best part about DMT is that you know, we've had a 4-year history of like NFT projects with like these this 10K minting, and then those projects try to expand just because of, you know, they want to expand their community, they want to generate more revenue, whatever it is, and it's always pretty much 100% of the time met with backlash from the community. And so this non-arbitrary expansion really allows for the growth of the community in a way where no one has that decision. And so I feel like that's probably the best way to grow a community where, you know, it's up to Bitcoin now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is one of the big value adds. And I think we've had maybe 1 or 2 examples of it actually occurring up until this point because of the nature of the bits field, right? It's not like a constant. So it's not something we can constantly observe. What is the actual like reaction in real time to this expansionary effect, right? Potentially once some new fields get activated, hopefully in the short-term time horizon, we're going to have new UNAT deployments that have like a much more constant expansionary rate, depending on the patterns, of course.
Yeah.
But that is like one of the new things that can be unlocked with new data fields native to Bitcoin. But yeah, we had a couple. I think one was either Jackpot or Joker.
It was Joker.
And then the other one was whatever Nattributes was.
Yeah, whatever that pattern was.
Yeah, in one case, it was completely ignored, right?
Yeah.
It's completely faded. It's like, we don't care that there's new patterns.
Yeah, they didn't get it.
Right, so it really is, this is part of the big experiment, right? So the next time this occurred, you know, Natcats was expanding in real time as they were minting, but that was by creator choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a big deal, I think. Something that's very overlooked, not really talked about enough, whether or not this is like an evolutionary component to figuring out how to build like real sustainable ecosystems in Web3, which we've constantly been battling with this, like trying to develop anything, GameFi, anything in the Metaverse. You need sustainable economics around these things. Otherwise, we're just going to see, you know, growth and decay over and over again, right?
Yeah, and you need the ability to expand past the 10K mints as well.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you look at anything Web 2, anything with 10K is like dead, beyond dead.
Yeah.
Right. And so we need to be able to expand beyond that. And I feel like the way to expand is in a way that's not arbitrary because it's fair for everybody. Right. And like you were saying, Chris, everyone, this is what we signed up for. Right. If it expands, it expands. It's like you know, that's
your choice.
It's what happens. Right.
Yeah, that's your new choice as a creator, right? You guys could easily go down the arbitrary pathway, right? And just say, because it still exists. Like, that's the point. Now you have 2 options as creators. Like, you can either have, you know, an arbitrary mechanism that determines existence or a non-arbitrary one. right? But
Yeah.
you know, obviously this thing just got started, so we don't know the final outcome of that.
Right.
So
Yeah, but speaking of final outcome, I feel like DMT is one of the very few things in crypto that is brand new, because DMT can't be done anywhere else and with the same energy, with the same security.
The fact that it's happening on Bitcoin definitely contributes significantly. And we're learning that even more as days go by, right?
Thank you, Jason Lowry.
Yeah, understanding the importance of like actual tangible energy input into like this whole system, right? Like it actually matters quite a bit. Right?
Yeah.
It might not be so obvious yet because it's so early. Just like any new like technical innovation, like at first it's completely faded by everybody because it's just not obvious until I don't know. Like, what do you think? What do you guys think? Like, would require it to become? I guess
I think I'm with Vitalik on this. Even 4 years ago, he was right. Like, we are missing for some killer apps. Like I think the crypto should be a little bit more social. Like take a look, guys. Like we are hanging out on blockchain, but we talk on Discord. We don't have like hangout place on actual Bitcoin space. And I think that's probably one of the reasons. Like we don't have that killer app yet. So if you're gonna invite to space more and more people, innovation will come and eventually it will happen. But I think it's like this one app can change everything, And is it gonna be a game or is it gonna be, I don't know, Instagram like or Twitter like? I don't know. But some kind of killer app. We need that to like really propagate the culture faster.
Yeah, we often think about that, the killer app of cryptocurrency and the metaverse. Yeah.
Well, the metaverse for sure needs its killer app, right?
Yeah. That for the metaverse, but also crypto in general, outside of just money, programmable money, like what is that Netscape moment, right? What's the browser? What's the first big browser for cryptocurrency?
Well, if crypto needs that still, then DMT needs that even more so, sure. Right?
Which could be the metaverse.
I feel like it is. I feel like, producing assets of any degree, whether it's fungible or not, non-fungible, I think it's more closely aligned with like a digital existence layer than like an arbitrary version of this.
We talk about this all the time. It's like the digital physics, right? Yeah. If we live in the real world and it's based off of land and like production of businesses and like the economy of that, like we're trying to mimic that in the metaverse. I mean, you wouldn't want to do that anywhere else besides, this foundational aspect of energy input, low entropy states, and then leveraging that low entropy state using, a framework like DMT.
So how do you envision like, what's happening right now in the UNAT space? Like, what is the application of that into the metaverse, you think? Like, is it just simply leveraging what's being created right now and propagated by, deployers as like, just actually having a real tangible existence in the metaverse? Like that is like the full end game execution of like a closed loop to all of this?
Yeah, I feel like, I think that would be the case, because once you have like a metaverse, based off this digital physics, then you can kind of create the economies that mimic the real world, right? Because in the real world, you're limited by physics, right? In the digital world, you're not limited by anything other than, just like by the protocols, right? And if your protocol is built on top of this idea like DMT, then it's like, then you have limitations. Now you have a way to actually mimic the real world.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's a good starting point for the metaverse.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But one of the things that drew me into UNATs was I see it as having potential to give purpose to a metaverse. As I mentioned, I experimented with the Ethereum metaverse primitives, and it's just like, okay, you get in here and you build a art gallery, look at some art or whatever, and that's fun for a little bit. But then after a while, you're like, okay, what am I really doing here? I have no purpose.
Yeah.
When I was fortunate to mint some Nat cats. It was the first time I ever minted anything, and it was so fun. Like it was a game, because especially the way it was launched, like the rules were laid out, and like there's these these hidden patterns to mint these like rare Nat cats. So it's like, okay, you're like trying to solve the puzzle, finding the blocks that created a nat cat, and then trying to find like the special patterns within those block heights. And then you mint it, and maybe you get it, maybe you don't, maybe somebody beat you to it. Like it had like a real kind of game feel to it. Like I just had a blast doing it. Like I was elated through the experience.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you guys, I feel like have built upon this experience through the block drop, where you've taken like the gamification of it to the next level.
Yeah.
And I feel like you played this out over 100 iterations, and there's like real potential there to create a very immersive, engaging game where maybe, one of the primary objectives of this game is to find, discover, mint UNATs, and UNATs, which can take any form. It could just be a PvP, it could be some kind of like any kind of digital collectible, right? That may or may not have tangible value. And I feel like, if we could connect those dots, that would give this concept of a metaverse like actual purpose and real like reason for people to participate in it.
I think you might have just described the killer app.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe.
Yeah, and one other thing about DMT is that there's a lot of properties that we're not taking advantage of, in the sense that we need to index more fields.
Yeah,
like one of the fields that I like to kind of point out is like the subsidy field. And if we were to index the subsidy field, you have the halvening built into that property, into that component of like this digital space on Bitcoin. And all of a sudden you can point to you could have this component of like a fungible token having every single 210,000 blocks. And so now you have like this new property that you can play with as a creator, that you could do an art piece, or you could do a fungible token according to that built-in property of Bitcoin. And there's tons of these examples on Bitcoin already. And so once we're able to index everything, now creators really have a giant canvas to play with for building out applications, building out games with assets that are non-arbitrary, more art, things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's important to enable these these non-arbitrary levers, essentially, is what they are.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, anytime we create any kind of economic framework where the levers are under the control of some human or some, centralized authority or actor, that introduces such a vector of
corruption.
Just critical error, I guess you could even say. Like the fact that, our whole real world economy is dependent on these, very few actors that actually have their hands on these levers. We have to completely trust that they're going to operate them.
Yeah.
And honestly, in everybody's best intentions, whatever. Right. So that is quite the system to kind of like build all of our like societal infrastructure on top of.
Yeah.
It's quite the risk
we're all taking. It's a trust system.
100%. Yeah. So if we can build a trustless lever, like in a variety of such, so that these people who are deploying new digital ecosystems, economies, whatever, have access to them.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It's a big deal, right? As we get closer to, again, like sustainability is always like the ultimate chase for us, right? Because if something's unsustainable, it's just like what's. I mean, I guess it's important whether or not it sustains or not. It still contributes to the overall like pathway of understanding and like how we can actually get there. So it's part of the scientific process, right? Things can come and go, but we got to make these incremental improvements along the way, which I think, so we can't even get there from a DMT perspective until we get these new fields like out and in the hands of you guys, right? So we can see what you guys do with it. How does this enhance your ecosystems? Right now you're focused on art, right? But you have tools in your hands that aren't being leveraged by all the deployers, any of the deployers, really. Like the fact that this is a hybrid token, right? You guys, as this collection was minted, a fungible token counterpart was minted as well. It's not so obvious how to leverage that because it's like a one-to-one parity because of the nature of like how the fields are. But in the future, you can have a non-fungible 10K collection and a very dynamic fungible token supply. Oh, have you guys put any thought at all as far as like how that could potentially interplay with what it is you guys are building? Yeah, have you thought of that at all?
I thought about it. But I don't have any tokens though, because I bought everything secondary market, and then I got
Oh, I see. Yeah.
also frogs from donations. So actually, I don't have, but I have some other ones, and I thought about it like, because it's like a rune almost, right? Almost infinity, possible to be infinity amount, right? Divided, and so it's similar technology. Am I correctly understanding this? Like a rune, but it's implemented.
Yes.
Ideally with the ecosystem, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because we see a lot of these non-fungible ordinal collections or whatever. They catch wind, they build a large community, and then after the fact, somebody random from the community will mint a fungible token, like a pepe token or pups, right? The Bitcoin puppets were a huge success, but the founders, the deployer, whatever, they didn't feel the need for any kind of like fungible token. How's that going to interplay or enhance our community or ecosystem, whatever? Typically, that hasn't really been like the two sectors of crypto haven't really found their unification model yet, like where non-fungibility and fungibility like actually have a purpose for one another. So we're kind of like brute forcing that thought into all of our deployments.
Yeah.
Because they literally are created in unison, right? A non-fungible and a fungible counterpart to one another.
That's right.
So, we struggle with this ourselves just because the protocol enables this by its nature.
But what's interesting,
is there actual like use case for it?
Yeah, right? But what's interesting, you look at many of the big projects, Yuga Labs, you see Decentraland, Sandbox, there's always dual token economies. They have the NFT and then they have the fungible token.
Yeah.
Right. And so with DMT, you have both of them all in one shot. So there is a use case. It's just it's about the project implementing a use case for whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
I think as you guys get older, maybe you will naturally gravitate towards the conclusion I've drawn, just like like a governance mechanism, because this is a forever asset, right? As Bitcoin is, and we are not forever beings.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a way to maintain the asset, right? And like you said, you had to reach out to somebody who actually had possession of the deployment, right? In order for you to do anything, right? So at some point, somebody's going to need to take possession from you guys to make sure the future is upheld and maintained. So there needs to be a mechanistic process that is trustless and all of that.
That's right. That's right.
Maybe that is like the killer use case for all this, but obviously the tools and infrastructure isn't there. So
I remember one of your talks, guys, where you were talking about like potentially creating like whole universes with weather systems and stuff like that. So I think definitely there is a usage in this, right?
Yeah.
So if we are gonna, for example, pretend that when you mint Mscribe UNAT, which is, for example, a factory, then the token that's fungible can be a fuel to that factory or whatever, right? So obviously you can create an asset and some utility to it. So definitely like creating this whole universe in this DMT, I think definitely there are like multiple usages of this, but it's more about like making it clear as well. Like I think a lot of people, they don't even know those tokens, they exist.
100%. They definitely don't.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing we need to help make obvious from our perspective. Because, we have a lot in our plates as far as how do we support you guys and everything you guys are building. And so we have the same vision you do as far as like why we did BlockPad. Like that is definitely like a prototype demonstration of like the bare bones of how we can like turn this closeness that we've created to like the Bitcoin blocks into like a real tangible spatial experience in a sense. Like we're all sharing cyberspace when we're in those block pads. Right?
Yeah, and Chris said it best. He remembers the experience of minting Natcats.
Yeah.
And it was that feeling, that experience that we wanted to recreate. And
systematize.
Platformatize that experience. Because once you create that experience, people remember and they get inspired and they, probably contribute to communities as a result.
Yeah.
Right. And so I feel like it's a little weird, creating resistance to like a mint, but you enable sort of like these new experiences. And I think that's what is most memorable when it comes to like launching a project.
I think so too.
Yeah. So Chris, you mentioned NatFlyers. You want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, a lot of my energy right now is going towards trying to participate in the UNAT ecosystem any way I know how, or we know how as a team. So one thing we have going on is NatFlyers. It's under our Pepe Flyers streetwear sneaker brand. We actually sell, real Pepe themed sneakers that are tokenized. They hold a Bitcoin wallet that can hold counterparty or ordinal tokens. And we saw an opportunity to launch a NatFlyers collection, which creates non-arbitrary Pepe Flyers themed digital shoes. And they all are unique. They have special features. They have different color combinations, and a lot of it is relatively simple, especially compared to what we've seen from other UNAT projects, especially compared to like the complexity of Stan's artwork. But what we think there's some unique things we can bring to the table with this project. So, for example, as of right now, we haven't announced this, but I assume when this goes out, we will have announced it, that we're actually going to enable holders of these UNATs to buy their actual IRL sneakers that match the UNATs that they hold. So,
Wow.
if you like the color combination of a specific UNAT, you can seek it out, and then you can actually buy that actual sneaker. And another way we intend to extend this to is hopefully through a 3D wearable that can be worn in some kind of future Bitcoin metaverse. So while it's starting off relatively simple and just kind of a fun, cool project, we intend to expand it in some unique and novel ways. Another thing we have going on is through this experience through Natfrogs and NatFlyers with the team at Scarce City, we've recognized that there's a need for helping creators actually code their artworks into a script that can be inscribed to help them deploy the project. So through one of our brands, Ord City, we are offering like an agency-like service. If you're an artist out there and you have an idea for a UNAT project, but you don't know how to create the code, we'll create that code for you. So those are the big UNAT initiatives we have going on. Really just, I'm so in love with the energy of this community and want to participate in any way that I can.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
That's huge because I already sent, there was an artist who hit me up who has developed all this art, but had no idea how to code it. So I've already sent someone your way.
Yeah, me too. I sent my girlfriend your way too. she's so passionate and in love with everything DMT and what's being created. But, unfortunately she lacks the technical know-how, right? A lot of people, that's not her fault. I don't know how to do it either.
Right.
But the fact that you guys are offering that's huge. That's a tremendous contribution. Obviously much needed. So hopefully it works out very well. We're going to keep doing as much as we can to push people into that direction. So anybody who watches this or any future, if you know anybody who wants to get involved in the space, but is a little bit intimidated by the technical aspects, for sure, definitely we put our full stamp of approval on that. But going back to the kind of the phygitial stuff you were talking about, how do you envision Wills supporting this? Because this seems like another thing that needs a framework so that that's how we think, right? Anytime anything we inject anything new or some other creator is injecting something new, it must be replicable, right? And obviously physical asset delivery, making sure there's an authentic redemption process to that is all part of the
it reminds me of Nifty Gateway. Remember when you purchased at Beeple? And I think you had to put in your address and everything, but but there was a time lag between actually receiving the NFT versus receiving the physical item.
Yeah, I think it was a whole off-chain thing.
Yeah.
But obviously I didn't stick around long enough to, to figure out the process. But when it comes to physical asset delivery, obviously there's a lot of logistics involved. So we're going to have to work with you guys closely, but I'm thinking more like, the parent-child association in order for claiming of these assets, just to make sure, like, it's like a bitmap, right? When you parcel a bitmap, you got to be sure, like, that the indexers understand, like, when you transfer ownership of that bitmap, like, that parcel has been taken.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So it's like when you transfer a flyer, you got the indexer needs to know. It's like there's no physical redemption allowed for this thing because it's already been done in the past. Right?
Maybe child inscription is the way to do that.
For sure. So it's like we got to work with you guys on that. But that is really cool. I mean, that is like a massive potential market sector that can be leveraged here.
I'm curious on the actual physical shoe. You said that it matches the art of the I guess the DMT asset. So how do you guys do that physically? Do you have like a manufacturing process that replaces the parts, or how does that work?
Yeah, it'd be a super manual process. Fortunately, we have a manufacturer who we pitched the idea to, and they said they can figure it out for us. So, they would do the real heavy lifting here. We would basically just send them images of the shoes that we want manufactured, and they would manufacture them for us, and then we ship them to the customers.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Having these shoes, like, because I saw some of the art. I mean, it's pretty dynamic.
It's sick. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna rock some of those for sure.
Yeah,
here on set. But yeah, I think it's a big deal. And like as soon as I saw you guys announce the project, immediately got me thinking. This whole like built by Bitcoin thing. We're kind of like pushing into everybody's brain space.
Yeah.
It to me, I immediately I'm imagining Bitcoin as like this giant like distribution center now. It's like a big Amazon warehouse. And
absolutely.
We're just filling it up with like the stuff that it's actually going to send out. So we literally are building like the pipelines for now, not just digital asset distribution, that physical too, which is fucking crazy if you think about it, right? So this has really big implications if executed correctly, and can contribute to a lot of real jobs, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
if you think about it.
All right, Chris, Stan, appreciate you guys for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys. I guess any last words from the both of you on like what's next, like what can the community look forward to, and any timelines, any dates that you want to share?
Maybe I'll start really quick. I'm working on another DMT collection that it's. I'm not gonna spoil it what it is yet, but it's very like tough subject, and it's like pretty tough even for me as an artist to completely like go into it and visualize everything that it's like coming with it, but it's like deeply embedded in Bitcoin culture as we know it, and then obviously I'm gonna work with Natfrogs as well. I have in plan some short animation, and then maybe potentially some 3D inscriptions will come our way.
Badass.
Yeah, we're thinking, and for me definitely like mural and t-shirts with Natfrogs, they have to happen.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and so with the experience that we've seen so far is when you have your art, don't tell anybody like how the patterns are formed, and when you show the art, don't tell anybody like which part of Bitcoin you're using to actually generate them, and just keep everything a mystery, and that tends to be a better outcome.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I've rugged there, guys.
Yeah,
I'm back now.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only final words I have is thank you so much, guys, for what you're doing. Thank you so much for having us on, and for really holding this ecosystem and community on your back. Really appreciate it. It's especially refreshing in the current crypto environment of all of the left curve sensations out there to have some real substance in the space. So greatly appreciate everything you do.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Chris.
Yeah, definitely appreciate everything you guys are doing.
You guys.
Yeah, it's just the effort it took you, because you could have easily just left Nat Frogs, even no matter how much you liked them.
Yeah.
Just let it be, right? Like everybody else kind of did. So for the fact that you guys stepped in and took over and created real substance and value out of something.
Real community.
Like again, that helps us tremendously. Everything everybody's doing is, it's not just us. Like, if you guys don't do what you do, then we don't have the incentive or motivation to continue on either. So it's like, fuck, it's a feedback thing, right? So everybody's contributing. So definitely shout out to you guys. Shout out to the Nat Frogs community. everybody who's putting in their work. I mean, it's quite the thing. Hopefully, a year from now, we'll all look back and like, man, we actually did something.
We did something, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, thank you guys very much, and to the whole community of Bitcoin and Ordinals and our beloved Natfrogs, you know. And yeah, let's stay tuned for more. And yeah, I'm waiting for another episode from you, Black Runners. Yeah.
Excellent.
And nice to see you, Chris, as well. Like, I haven't seen your face.
Yeah, likewise. First time we met.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. All right. All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much. And everyone watching, appreciate you for watching as well. And all the links will be in the description. And we will catch you in the next podcast. Peace.